Wow, guys, I can't believe it. I'm here telling you I'm celebrating my 1 millionth subscriber. That is so awesome. What? 1,000? Not 1 million? Oh, well, motherfucker. Alright, so I'm here celebrating my 1,000th subscriber. Not 1 million, but still. I did promise you when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I would make a video and tell you guys a little bit about some things in my life that have happened that I haven't told you about yet. Some things I did before I became a factory worker and moved to Cambodia. And tell you my one dream I still have, should it ever happen. That's going to depend on a lot of factors. And I know you don't want to sit here and look at this all the time. So we're going to get out there. We're going to walk around, and I'm going to tell you everything. Before I did anything really, I joined the military. I dropped out of school. I did. Dropped out of high school after my sophomore year. I was a stoner kid. I didn't have much interest in education, so even when I went to school I didn't really pay much attention, which is why I'm so horrible at so many subjects. Math, geography, those kind of things confuse me. So I dropped out and I bummed around for a while, causing my parents a bunch of grief. But I guess that's what kids do. Sometimes. Not everybody. But sometimes. But then I joined the military. And that helped straighten me out somewhat to a degree. I took my basic training and advanced individual training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And then I got my assignment and I was going to Göppingen, Germany. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. That was my duty station for 2 years. And I had a lot of fun there. Everything was kind of chill. At one point, I was thinking about becoming a lifer in the military. I couldn't believe after all that hard training at Fort Benning that how chilled everything seemed to be in Germany. One of the first things my a sergeant told me when I got there, he had all of us brand new people. And he said, everything you learned in basic training, forget about it here. You're going to learn how the real army works here. Forget all that stuff they told you. But it was pretty chill. That's where I really met a lot of great people. And I think that, more than anything, kind of set my mind straight as far as relying on other people and being able to trust other people. Because one thing you learned early on is that everybody had your back if you had theirs. The funny thing is, out of everything the military taught me, all the discipline, and no matter how crappy something was that had to be done, it's better to just do that and get it over with quickly, which is a very important lesson. But the one thing the military, the one thing from the military I kept with me more than anything is eating really fast. And I don't know why that is, but since basic training, you only have a certain amount of time to eat. You have to eat everything on your plate. and you have large burly men in their drill instructor hats yelling at you the whole time to hurry up and finish. How come you haven't eaten all your rice yet? How come? Why are there? I still see a pea on your plate, and just all kinds of anything they could think of. Anybody who's been in the military is probably familiar with that. But for some reason, even now, and I'm trying to get better, but I'm usually the first one to finish a meal if I'm with a bunch of people. I consider it just something to get done because your body needs nutrients. You don't really have time to enjoy a meal. Which I know that's kind of weird. That's the one holdover from the military. But it is. Now when I was in Germany, they were getting rid of American troops. The political climate was changing somewhat. And I wanted to stay because I liked my unit. I liked the people I got to hang out with. Our captain was a bit of a dick, but that's kind of the job of every captain, I think. But they rejected my paperwork for an extension 3 times. And so I had to leave, and they sent me to Fort Carson, Colorado. And that's where I started rethinking this, oh, maybe I want to stay in the military thing. There's a big difference between being in the military in America and being in the military overseas. Big difference. The main difference being that because you're in the U.S. military, you're expected to represent your country, if you're in America, a certain way, with a certain amount of decorum and grace, and you don't have the same relaxed atmosphere as you do overseas. In other words, things were far more strict than they were in Germany. Everything was always go, 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 dress right, dress, by the book, all the time. And so I started acting out because that's what one does. And so I never got along. I mean, I had friends there. Of course, you make friends wherever you go if you're in the military. But there wasn't that closeness that I had in Germany. So when my time was up, I decided I'm not gonna renew. I'm just going to get out while the getting's good. I think part of that had to do with the fact that I kind of felt like if I wanted to stay in Germany and fulfill my obligation to my country, then why not just let me stay there? And I didn't want to renew and find myself in a situation where they sent me somewhere else I didn't want to be. And I just felt like it was time to get out. So that's what I did. Now, believe it or not, I didn't start immediately working in factories. Although I did that for a long time. I had several jobs before then. One actually was a salesman. If you can believe that. I'm kind of an introvert. And but I did. This was before the internet and before the online world. And I worked for a company that sold photography packages to people who had just had a baby or who just got married. Because these were, of course, the 2 main groups of people that would probably be taking lots and lots of pictures. So we covered 7 states. It was a commission job. You would go with a partner every week to a different city in one of the seven different states we covered. They would pay for your hotel room for the weekend. You'd get in on a Thursday, come back on a Saturday. As soon as you hit town, you would mail postcards that they provided to all the people who had recently been married or had a baby since the last time The sales representatives were there. I don't know how they got the names or anything, but we just had a big bundle of postcards we would drop in the mail first thing we get into town. Then the next day people would receive them and they would start calling us to make appointments. It would be in a hotel room. They would come hear about our different photography packages. Every time you send us a roll of film, we develop the picture, send it back. You also get a free roll of film. You can get packages like 8x10s, 3x5s, wallet size. And we offered a savings above what the photography studios at the time would offer. Like, you know, Sears, or we had what, you know, Olin Mills was a big photography company. And then we would sell our packages, and whatever we sold we would make a commission on. Commission sales is a hit or miss. Some weeks you're living large, some weeks you're struggling. That's just the way it is, because you only get paid if you sell. And some towns just seem to be dead. Everybody said no, 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 no. And then other towns, every other person would just say yeah, and you'd make, hey, I just made another, you know, $50. So I did that for 2 years, I believe, or almost 2 years. And then I was married at the time, and we decided I need something a little bit more stable, something that would provide a more an income that wasn't so shaky. So I got a third shift job as a security guard. I did that for a while. Pretty good gig, third shift every hour. Had to go make some rounds. I had a little clock I would punch into certain locations so that they could see I actually did my job. And that was all good, but it didn't pay really great. And it was almost like being back in the military. They expected you know, to keep your hair short, and you couldn't have facial hair, or you could, but it had to always be trimmed and always look presentable. You had to shave every day, and But again, I did that for a couple of years. Then I got divorced. So then I decided to drive a taxi cab. I did that too. I did that for 4 years. That was an experience. That really gave me a wealth of life experience. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I worked a night shift 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. It's 12-hour shifts. You were an independent contractor, so you could basically do what you wanted. You did have to pay for your cab rental for your shift. You had to top off your gas tank at the end of your shift. And you did have to pay so much per mile for every mile you drove during your shift. But everything over and above that was yours to keep. So of course, if you wanted to just waste money and not actually pick up fares, you could do that, as long as you had all your basics covered. But I wanted to make money, and it actually would work out pretty good. I always figured my first $80 of each shift. First 80 was for my nut, the money I needed to pay for my rental, my gas, and my mileage. And everything over that was mine. So I would hop in my cab at 3, hustle to make $80. And then depending on the board, how busy everything was, I could either really hustle and get the money I needed, sometimes quit early if I wanted to. Didn't matter. Or if it was slow, I would have times where I would just sit and wait because I didn't want to waste my gas, didn't want to waste my mileage, just driving around for nothing. And that job worked out pretty good. Met a lot of interesting people. And like I said, you had more independence than you do at another job. And the first question people always ask when they find that out was, how many times did you get robbed? And the answer is none. I never got robbed my whole 4 years, even working the night shift. I did have runoffs a few times. It's where you take them where they want to go. They say, hey, stop here. And then as soon as you stop, you go to turn off the meter and they jump out the back and just run. Of course, we call the police, but there's really nothing the police are going to do. Really no way to find them. You don't know where they went. By the time the police get there, they've had a good head start. You can basically just give a description and count that fare as a loss. So that happened a few times, but for the most part, everything was legit, on the up and up. I did some dispatching for a while. One day, our regular dispatcher, he came into work and he had a warrant out for his arrest, and the police were there waiting for him. And I'd been there long enough, and they asked me if I wanted to fill in for him, and I said yes. And then they just let me do it until he got his stuff taken care of. Now you do make a steady salary when you do that. It's you get paid by the hour. So some people would say, well, that's better than driving a cab and hoping for the best. But there were many, many more days when I made more in a week, or many, many more weeks, where I would make more money in a week driving than I did dispatching. And it was still a 12-hour shift. So I didn't care for that as much, but I didn't mind. But all good things must come to an end, and I found my first factory job. The pay was a lot better than anything I'd done before, and it was steady, it was guaranteed. And like I hear from many other people, sometimes working in a factory you get new guys, new girls, and they're all younger, and they all say the same thing. Hey, I'm just here, save up some money until I can go to college, until I can get a better job, put my degree to use. And I just look at them and think, oh, that's what I was thinking at one point. But you get in places like that, and like I said, you get the guaranteed paycheck. Sometimes it's profit sharing, you get bonuses. The longer, the more seniority you have, you get better benefits, higher benefits, more vacation time, and they keep dangling carrots in front of you to get you to stay. And then you get scared about leaving the security of something, like, oh my God, I've been here 4 years. Now I get this, I get 2 weeks vacation now instead of 1. I got my 3rd raise. If I quit now, I got to start all over at the bottom somewhere else and build all that up, and it instills a fear in you because you feel like you wasted everything you worked for. And because they're not factory jobs, there's that extra fear that you get a bad reputation of quitting places, and then no other factories around the area want to hire you. And that's what I did all the way up until the time I discovered TEFL and teaching English as a foreign language overseas and how to do that. And I told you all about that in the previous video. But yeah, basically I've had a lot of jobs in my life. I've done a lot of things, but I think each one taught me something that I still use to this day. About dealing with people, whether it's selling to them, talking to them in a certain way, whether it's in a taxi. They say bartenders, people tell bartenders all their troubles. Well, believe it or not, in a taxi it's the same way, man. They just feel comfortable because you're a stranger. They might not see you again. They want to get something off their chest. So you hear some horrible stories, some very nice, uplifting stories, but The thing is, you have to kind of, even if you're not a people person, you want to pretend to be a people person because you're still working for a tip. You're hoping they give you a little tip on top of your fare. What you do at a job like that, unless you completely shut yourself off, you do tend to have some empathy for your fellow human beings. Try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Realize that it's not always about you all the time, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I would say having different jobs with different responsibilities has all helped shape who I am today. Whether you like that or not, that's your decision. But I would say I learned something from every job I had, no matter how much I liked or didn't like it. And now my one thing. Here's my one thing. When I first mentioned, I mentioned it in a video, when I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to tell everybody about my one dream I still have left. It would require me to go back to America. It would take about 6 months. And it would take about, almost, between 6 and 10 grand. And I thought it was vague enough, but somebody posted something in the comments the next day after I made that video and said, oh, I know what it is. It's this. That's the only thing that fits the numbers and the time. And I played it off like, oh, come on. Do you really think that's it? I didn't deny it. I didn't lie. But I just said, do you really think I would do something like that? Come on. But the fact is, he was a very smart, astute man because he nailed it right on the head. And that thing is, the one dream I still have left, if it ever happens, will be to through hike the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail starts in Georgia, ends in Maine, goes through 14 states. Like I said, the average time it takes somebody to do it is about 6 months. And people estimate, but again, it depends on a lot of factors, but people estimate on average it costs about $1,000 per month to do it, because you will have to stay in hostels at some point. You will take days where you don't hike at all. You have to stay in hotels. You'll stop at restaurants along the way. You have to resupply all your food when you're away from areas that don't have cities or towns by them, which is a lot of the trail. So yeah, that's always been kind of a goal of mine for a while now. And like I said, it was something I thought about doing when I started saving money to move to Cambodia. I thought, should I do this first? I mean, I actually thought about it for a little while, but decided against it because I didn't want to have to spend another year or two raising money to move here. So, but yeah, I want to through hike the Appalachian Trail someday. Hopefully not too late, because I'm old. And the older you get, the more difficult it will be, of course. But yeah. So that's a little bit more of my life story. Things that happened to me before teaching, before Cambodia. I could go into many finer details, but none of that is really necessary. But if you do have questions about any of it, just leave me a comment below, of course. Now, I did have many suggestions on what to do for my 1000th video. So this video is what I promised I would do earlier. So that's the purpose for this one. And we'll get to some of the other stuff later. All right. Once again, thank you everybody for subscribing. Be sure to check out all my links down below, links to my books. If you want to donate or join my Patreon, those links are down below. T-shirts are down below. All the channels I subscribe to that are vlogging from Cambodia are below. And of course, all my social media links are down below. All right. I will talk to you guys in the next one.